Hello and welcome to the Dream Architect Live with Bryan Sweet and Brittany Anderson from Sweet Financial Partners. Bryan, Brittany, how are you?
Wonderful.
Doing fantastic today, Eric.
It's good to see you guys. We are continuing this conversation, which I just have loved. We're talking about the Who's. Now, you kind of joked about it's not the Dr. Seuss Who's, but other Who's. Brittany, what did we talk about last time?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I wonder what you would do, Eric, if you ever asked us how we're doing and we just said absolutely terrible.
I would
What
hang up.
would you do?
I would fix I'm a fixer at heart, and something that I would try my best to do whatever I could. I can juggle. Three things, nothing more than that. Not really heavy things either. But what would it take to get you in a better mood? I guess that's the question.
Oh, I like that. All right. I just had to push on that for just a minute.
Thank you.
No, so yeah, if you come off of the last episode that we shot, so if you haven't tuned into that, I think it's a really good one to set some framing, not just for today's episode, but just in general in life and making decisions. So we talked a lot about, and Bryan's holding up for those tuning in on YouTube, who, not how. So it's a concept, a book that we've both read, both thoroughly enjoyed from Dan Sullivan, the creator of The Strategic Coach, and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, who at one point was the #1 writer on medium.com. So he's got his PhD, absolutely amazing, brilliant individual. And they put together just an absolute masterpiece. And the whole premise is basically, instead of asking yourself who or asking yourself how, you're asking the question of who. Who can help you basically get to the point in life where you're fulfilled? Who can help you take things off your plate that you don't enjoy? So again, it's that framing of who versus how. And we thought today would be interesting to take that concept and apply it to real life for people who are making big decisions around their retirement. One of the things that we often get asked is, who is really the ideal fit for you? Who do you serve? You guys talk about this dream architect thing, and you talk about, living big and experiences. So who really fits into the mold of who you serve? So I know, Bryan, you have one of our tools that we share with any prospective client. And if you're listening to this, the thing that I want to put as a framing for you is we understand that we may not be the best fit for everybody. And that is 1,000% okay, because we do know also that the people who are aligned with what we're about to talk about, they absolutely turn into, a glowing example of what it means to live the dream architect life. And there's so many great representations of that we've been able to witness and be part of. And it's been such a beautiful experience. So the framing is that if you're listening to this, #1, it's going to give you some potentially good questions to ask as you're on a search for your own financial advisor, for your own wealth planner. And #2, it'll help you decide if, we may be a good fit for you. But the whole point is just being helpful and offering context that you can use today live in real life. So Bryan, why don't you take us through, what it really means to work with Sweet Financial and just what that perfect kind of fit vision looks like.
I sure will. What I'm about to say first isn't really tied into this perfect fit vision, but I think one of the resources that we bring that I think is a real advantage is Brittany and I are lifetime learners, and we belong to a lot of different mastermind groups. And what made me think of this is the book that we showed with Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben Hardy. Well, the nice thing about that is I actually get to spend time in the same room. I was just there last week with both those guys. Dan teaches a course called Strategic Coach, and Ben's in the class with me. And so I get exposed to that thinking literally all year long. And so I think that's a resource that we kind of apply to the dream architect and everything that we do, but it's kind of a side benefit. So I just wanted to throw that out real quickly. But I think the key things, and I think these are really important things to think about. And when you think about hiring somebody to work on your financial plan, your retirement, I would take that incredibly serious, because you really probably only going to get one shot at that. And you really want to work with somebody that's got lots of expertise, has done it thousands of times, and has gotten amazing results that people that have worked with them can maybe tell you about. And so it's not something to take lightly. And so, we think, interviewing potential firms before you make these decisions is a great thing. And having some questions that maybe you ask is a good thing. But what Brittany and I'll chat about here a little bit is we have found 7 items that if a client has these 7 thoughts and they're comfortable with those, we become kind of an ideal firm for them because 1, those are our values. 2, that's how we deliver the experience. And it just seems like they, kind of fall in love with us and we fall in love with them. And it just makes for a really great relationship. So we'll just kind of chat on each of these and kind of fill in the blanks as we go. But as we alluded to in the other podcast talking about who's, we find that somebody that wants to delegate that portion of their life, their financial decisions and their wealth planning, someone who wants to turn that over to an expert is a really good fit for us. We have such great processes and methodologies and systems for doing literally everything. And we really want our clients to spend the time that they otherwise would on following up on all those items, doing the things that they really enjoy. And we talked a little bit about DIYers before. And, if that's something you enjoy and you can spend the time and understand it and can implement everything, more power to you. Because I know a lot of people that are really good at it and they handle their own things and they should. I also know some people that do it themselves and, maybe that's not the case. And consequently, the results aren't as good. So we're really well equipped for somebody that wants to delegate that, but then have an ongoing process where the things that are important get reported on, they're updated on, and they know where they sit at all points, but they don't have to worry about it until those actual reviews come up. Or if they have a question, we have an open door policy. They can call at any point. But that's the first one.
Okay, Bryan, before you move on, I got something because we haven't talked about this yet, but because you brought up the DIY thing, I want to add one thing to it that we didn't cover on the last episode. I haven't told you guys this, but I just sold my house last week. And we talked about, my wife and I talked about putting our house on the market probably last April or May. And we know we had a few things that we had to get fixed. We wanted to redo a bathroom, so on and so forth. And we slowly got those things done. We had a realtor come in. We actually had another person that we spoke with as well that was a realtor. And then I looked into the DIY stuff. And man, everybody's like, the market is so hot. DIY it, do it yourself. The realtor fees are outrageous and they're so expensive and they take this percentage, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing that I didn't think about because I looked at what it would take. Okay, list it on the MLS, get it listed on Zillow, make sure it's there, get it on Facebook Marketplace, do all the advertising that you need to do, take all the pictures, stage it. We could do that, right? Here's the problem. We weren't. we weren't doing it. It wasn't that we were procrastinating, but we didn't have accountability to that. We ended up going with a realtor mainly for the fact that, number one, she is a professional. She did a great job, outstanding job, but we had to set deadlines because she was going to hold us accountable for those. And that was the deal breaker for us because I'm technologically, well, I can't say the word, but I am tech savvy. Let's put it that way. I'm tech savvy. I could have done those things on my own, but it was actually getting them done and taking those first steps and then the second steps and the third steps. That's what you guys do, right? That's what the professionals do. So it was a wonderful process. Did I pay more for selling my house? Yes. Did I get more for my house? Maybe, or maybe not. But here's the thing is I didn't have to worry about it anymore. And I had somebody on my butt saying, hey, pictures are in 1 week. Are you going to be ready? Yes. We worked till 10 o'clock every night, but yes, we were ready and it worked out. But that accountability, I think we didn't talk about so much on the last one, but that's a huge piece of what you guys do. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, amen. And I think that's a huge component of delegation. And as Bryan goes through the rest of this too, there's kind of a common golden thread here is when you're looking at planning for your future and making massive decisions for your retirement, Deciding who you want to have in your corner for your wealth advisor is a really big decision. And I will tell you right here that one of the biggest complaints we hear when people do end up, maybe leaving another advisor and coming to do business with us is communication. Is they feel like, okay, well, yeah, I'm delegating and I'm putting this person in my life, but then I don't ever hear from them. So I don't know if I'm on track. I don't know if what I'm doing. And, when Bryan talks about how, he made the comment about helping people see results, and those are things that happen. So when we're talking about that, we're not talking about chasing some proverbial target in some, index that we're watching. It's, helping people make progress towards their goals and what they've deemed important. So Eric, I'm so glad you pulled that out there about the freedom of mind and having that accountability partner, because that's what this is all about. We want to be your partner. That's one of the reasons we changed our company name. We were Sweet Financial Services up until November of 2021. And then when we had made some changes in our business, we decided, you know what, now is a great time. We don't want to just be a service business. We want to actually be your partners on your journey. And that's meaningful. It's meaningful to you as a client. It's meaningful to us as your advisor and trusted person. So I'm so glad that you brought that out.
Well, that's why we didn't work with the first realtor we had over. And she was actually a friend of ours, but told us kind of some things that we should probably be doing. Didn't hear from her for 6 months. Like, I mean, there was no service there, and there was definitely no partnership there, So, but yeah, no, I think that's a huge piece of it.
Awesome. Yeah. Bryan, keep us going.
All right. Well, great example, Eric. Well, and the second one is really just a takeoff on what we truly believe. And as Brittany alluded to, our reviews are kind of interesting in that they're not talking about the performance of the markets. Matter of fact, I'm trying to think of the last time I actually talked about rates of return. It's probably hardly ever comes up. It's just all about the experiences and what you find important and where are we at and what do we need to do to get there. But the second quality is that you believe that there's a lot more to life and that it has to offer. And you want to create even better experiences in your life. And then you want an accountability partner to help you get there. So you referred to, you had an accountability partner with the realtor. I mean, that's really the role that we help with, is make sure that if you said this is important and you said you wanted to do it by such date, believe me, you will hear from us on that, and we'll help you get there. Until you tell me to change the date, that's the date. So I think that's a critical one. Any other comments on that?
Yeah. I think this is one that people maybe don't even realize how important this particular aspect is. And here's why. So, one of the things that we're really working on here at Sweet Financial is talking about, longevity and all the advances in science and the cool things that are happening. So Bryan's actually part of a program where he learns amongst some of the most brilliant minds in that field multiple times throughout the year. So here's an interesting thing is, when you believe that the best part of your life has already happened, that there's not necessarily more to life in the future, think about lifespan. Your brain it's a processor, right? It's not a truth teller. So if you're telling yourself every single day that, the best part of my life is behind me, and I'm just going to coast for a little bit now, or all the great things that were going to happen, they've already come, right? There's nothing else left. That's a little extreme, but you get my point here. Is it all of a sudden your brain is believing that and processing that. And then the downside is what could potentially happen when you're telling yourself that you don't really have much else to look forward to. And this is a real thing. I've been in different focus group type settings. I think actually back to one of our Women Forward focus groups, we had somebody there who truly believed that for the most part that the previous years of her life were really the best. And it's a little bit sad to see and to have those conversations. So we want people that, maybe you don't know exactly what the future is going to hold, but that there's so much there, and you're excited and you're energized, and that there's things that you're going to uncover and unpack and look forward to. So that's, I think people don't realize just how important that is.
Yeah, your brain doesn't know any different. So whatever information you feed it, it assumes that that's correct. And so if you put anything negative or, the best times are behind me, your brain is going to look for any reality that matches that.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Well-
consequently, if you feed it positive stuff and life is going to be great, then it's going to find reality in that. And there's just a really interesting quote that I just thought of based on what Brittany said. It says, the best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. So that's literally what we're going to try and do for you. But let's make it real positive, and let's make the experiences something that's even better than anything you've experienced before. And so that's kind of the fun thing about what we get to do, is get people to engage and look at things differently. And so that's fun.
Bryan, I want to ask you a question real quick, because
Yes, sir.
with all the years you've been doing this, and Brittany, I'm sure you're going to be able to touch on this as well. You know as well as I do that for the longest time, there's lots of studies out there where men specifically in industry and that have risen through the ranks and have very important positions have a really, really hard time letting that go because of the importance that they have. And Brittany, you could probably speak to this as well. We're seeing that in women now as well, more and more, where they rise to these positions of importance, and then it comes to time to retire, and that importance is then quote unquote taken away, even though they're probably the most important person to their grandkids, or they're still, important to their spouse, but they lose that sense of being. How do you help people past that when it's a situation when a lot of their identity was really wrapped up with the work that they've done for the last multiple decades?
Yeah, I'll comment on that first. I mean, that's absolutely why we created the Dream Architect. Is a huge, huge issue. And so many people, their whole life and their being is in the position that they held, and all of a sudden they're not there anymore, and it just kind of erodes. And so some people can retire and have a really terrible experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we've created this component that can help go through different exercises and processes to get you to understand there is more. But you have to play an active role in that. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Eric. That's exceedingly a big problem, especially with somebody that maybe had a super high end position, and a lot of respect, and
Mm-hmm.
People looked up to them for different things. Maybe that happens even to a greater extent.
Yeah. I think, again, Eric, I'm also glad that you brought this up, because, I think oftentimes, especially for people who have owned a business, it's like one of your children, right?
Yes.
Like your identity is tied to that, because that's what you've spent your life devoting your time and your energy and efforts to. So, anytime, and I heard this, and I wish I could credit it because I can't remember where exactly this popped up, but it was talking about how, you reach these moments in life, these massive moments of transition, where yes, you may have been a very important person, right? You held a role that was really important to whatever company you worked for, or you held a role as a business owner, and that was really important because you were basically creating the livelihood for the people that worked for
Mm-hmm.
you. But instead of thinking about that importance, when you're shifting and having this transition, it's, what is a life of significance? What does that look like? Because all of a sudden, that's not necessarily your identity, or it's not identity based. It's based on your decisions and how you're spending your time and who you're interacting with. So I think that's something to think about, is what does a life of significance mean to